Hello to you all and welcome back. We're going to be leaving what I'd call Milton Keynes today and heading up to Cosgrove on the Grand Union Canal. We're going to be going across two aqueducts, one which is old and one which is new. I took a chance, sold and gave away everything that I own to experience some much needed adventure in my life. So I'd like you to come along and experience it all with me every step of the way. On my channel, Narrowboat Cruising and Lifestyle. It's really nice of you to come back and keep me company again. So strap your life jackets on, or in this case even a parachute, because we're coming up to the first aqueduct and I'm sure some of you haven't got a lot of faith in my steering. This is the new one of the two aqueducts that we're going to do today. Well, I say new, it was built in 1991 and it's called Grafton Street Aqueduct. Some people call it New Bradwell Aqueduct. Before the aqueduct was built, there used to be an embankment going along here, which they called Eight Arches Embankment, named after the 8 arches you can see for the overspill there. Obviously it must have been cheaper and more practical to build an aqueduct rather than take the road over the top of the canal with a bridge. I wonder what them drivers think when they're looking at a boat going over the top of them. Must be a weird feeling. When they built this aqueduct, it was the first one in 50 years that they'd built on the Grand Union. With the footpaths either side, I felt pretty safe going across this one. They've still got an overspill here going down to the little stream. You may have noticed that I've got no chimney cover. It blew away in them few days of high winds that we just had. You know the storms I mean, the ones they give the silly names to. Between Milton Keynes and Cosgrove, you've got a biggish town called Wolverton. Which we're coming up to now. I wouldn't call it a pretty town, even though its history does go back to medieval times. But sadly there's not many signs of them times left there now. I'm going to have to be careful here in case I get an eyeful. In the 1830s, when the railway industry started to boom, Wolverton became a major centre for locomotive repairs. It seems they're very proud of that with this mural here. And the town was built up around that industry. We're coming up to an area now that looks like a bit of a building site, where they're building the dreaded canal side flats, which you can tell if you've watched some of my previous videos are not really my cup of tea. But each to their own, I suppose. This is the first signs of rubbish in the canal that I've seen for ages. And that usually tells you something about the area. I've seen that fella miles away on many occasions. He must have the fittest dog around this area. And he don't hang about, as they say. Most of Wolverton's behind us now. I've heard some lovely things about Cosgrove, and I can't wait to discover what all that's about, and I hope you're the same. But that's a treat still to come later in this episode. Looking at comments on these videos and listening to people and family members, I've noticed a lot of people are living in fear and anxiety. I've got a quick cure for that, and I know it worked for me. The cure is, turn your television off. Try it for a month and let me know how you get on and how you feel. If you look above that bridge, you can see the Galleon pub. And this is how it looked a few years ago, before they built a wider bridge and a wider road. This is more practical, but not as idyllic looking. Perhaps I'm trying to live in a world that doesn't exist anymore. This is the back of the pub where people sit in the summer. Still quite nice. The weather's been looking ominous, but we've been lucky so far. It's still not rained yet. I think that's the aqueduct coming up in front of us. It's called Iron Trunk Aqueduct. It was built in the year 1811, and it replaced an even older aqueduct, a masonry one, which collapsed. It carries the Grand Union Canal over the great river Ouse. As you can see from this old photograph, it looks like there was a parallel footbridge, but that seems to have gone now. It was designed by William Jessup, and he followed the same principles as the Welsh aqueducts, which I won't try and pronounce. It's not very long, only 101 feet. And that was the Iron Trunk Aqueduct. I've just looked over there to the right and seen all these caravans through the trees. I don't know if anyone out there can tell me what it is. Looks like we're coming up to a lock, which is a bit of a novelty for me lately. Haven't done many. we're approaching the outskirts of the village of Cosgrove. Just off to set the lock up and open the gate. When we get into Cosgrove properly, we're going to get off and have a look around, so I'm looking forward to that. Somehow, one of the fenders has got wrapped round the centre line. I don't know how that happened. I couldn't do that again if I tried. This kind chap that was walking by has decided to help me. He's making me think what I would look like in a bandana. What do you think? Shall I get one? Or shall I just stick to the same old boring woolly hat? I think it might make a difference to my videos. But not in a good way, I'm afraid. If you look to the left as we leave the lock, there's the Buckingham Arm. The aim is to restore it as the old Stratford Arm. That's probably another one that I'll never see completed in my lifetime. There's a services point coming up on the right, and I need to fill up with water, empty the toilets, get rid of the rubbish and all that business. There's a boater already on there and he's doing sign language at me, and I think he wants to leave and let me in. I'm going as slow as I can to give him a chance to get out of my way. But he doesn't seem to be moving. And I'm committed now. There he goes at last. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. He must be a bit deaf, or perhaps ignorant, or he could even be both. I just thanked him for letting me in here, and all I got was crickets. I'm glad that's done. That's got to be the slowest tap on the network. It took me over an hour to fill up my water tank. I'll have to stop moaning, because all I've got out here is time and plenty of it. So things like that shouldn't worry me at all. I'm looking to moor up just in front of us here, so we can have a look around. These are more like the new builds that I like to see around the canals and rivers. they've sympathised with the old sandstone buildings and they look nice. But that's only my opinion, yours may be different. There's some 2-day moorings over here on the right hand side, and I'm going to try and pull Aitch in there. There we go. Time to have a look around. I've just seen this sign 20 yards behind where I'm moored up for a horse tunnel, and it comes out over the other side of the canal there. That's where the horses used to come down from the canal. I doubt if it was as steep back in the day. The tunnel was built to take the horses to the other side of the canal where the stables and the blacksmiths used to be. Which was up this way, backing on to the Barley Mow pub. The Barley Mow pub has been here since the 1600s. Doesn't look like it's changed much over the years. I've just spotted this church tucked away, and next to it there's an old building that's being renovated. Looks quite nice. The church is called St. Peter and St. Paul. And parts of it date back to the 1100s, which is ancient. Can anyone tell me why all the gravestones are lined up on the wall? You can see who had all the power and money back in the day. Beautiful. Here's the canal and boats. And here's the lane leading off to the church. This place has got a Cotswoldy look about it, with the locally quarried stone walls and the sandstone buildings. There's been a lot of evidence found of Roman settlements here, especially when they was digging out the canal. And of course, the area around here was mentioned in the Domesday Book. What a pretty looking thatched cottage. Small, but I bet it's cosy inside. Hope you enjoyed that little walk around with me. Being as that was only a 2-day mooring, I'm going to move on now. I'm not going to go far. I'm going to go out into the countryside just outside of Cosgrove. There's an interesting looking bridge coming up, and it's got a little story to go with it. And you all know I like my stories. It's called Solomon's Bridge, and it's also called the Ornamental Bridge. It's one of the most unusual bridges on the network. Nowhere else can you find a bridge that's been built in the Gothic style. It was probably built to appease the local landlord when they was taking a canal through his land. But no one knows for sure. Wonderful. The old weather's a bit better today, which makes everything look nicer. Nicer? Is that a word? I haven't got the largest range of vocabulary. Can't even say it. But hopefully you can still get the gist of what I mean. Starting to open up into some lovely looking countryside. Them clouds look like pieces of cotton wool. I'd like to thank the people that clicked on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description and bought me a coffee for my efforts. Those people were Scrappy, Diane or Deanne and Bill H. Thank you very much. I'm going to moor up over here on the left. There's no trees in the way to ruin the solar, so it should be perfect. If you're new to the channel and you're thinking about subscribing, don't do it just yet. Watch a few of the other videos to make sure you like it, and if you do like it, I'll be so happy if you subscribed. Thanks for keeping me company on this trip, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.